Joining us, is actually visiting Arizona, but I know you're not up in our neck of the woods here in northern Arizona. Ric Grenell. Ric, welcome to the program. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor.
Yeah, you did the border, huh? You were down there. So I was talking with Congressman Andy Biggs just last week, and the numbers he gave me of people going across is astounding. And did the apprehensions, I guess you should say, but then you try to calculate how many people didn't. That they didn't catch.
Yeah, I haven't been to the border recently. I've been there when it was pretty safe and secure under the Trump administration, but I have not been down to see the chaos. We certainly have seen the evidence, and I just can't imagine how every single state does not view themselves as now a border state. What's happening is truly outrageous. It is defying common sense. It's defying federal law. And we hear this phrase a lot, but I think that it's worth repeating, and I think it is very true. But if you don't enforce borders, you don't have a country. And that is what is happening right now. All of Washington, D.C. thinks that the border is real far away, and they don't want to deal with it, and they don't think it impacts them. And when the governor of Texas decides to ship people who have illegally jumped the line and come into our country, ship them, bring them to Washington, D.C., Washington, D.C. thinks it's just a PR move. And they don't understand that the rest of us out west live with this on a daily basis. But I do like how Senate candidates and governor candidates in Ohio and Pennsylvania and New Hampshire are talking about how they are now a border state.
Yeah, because everything's floating up. I mean, the fentanyl numbers alone are horrible and scary what this is doing to our country right now.
I think that it's a crisis of epic proportion. We keep hearing about it, but people in positions of power need to do something. That's why I'm actually here in Arizona. I'm supporting Abe Hamadeh for Attorney General. Abe is a patriot, an America First candidate. He is somebody who uses common sense. When you hear him talk, you're electrified. You know exactly that you have to support this guy. I feel that we need really strong people in the Attorney General's seats. And so I'm looking at state by state to figure out who are the best America First candidates, who are the ones who are going to be at the front line fighting. And I have to say, I'm wildly disappointed with Republicans in Arizona who talk a big game and then don't deliver. And shame on us for falling for this. And we can't do that. So I'm putting my stamp of approval on Abe Hamadeh. I know he's going to be a fantastic Attorney General, and he won't let us down.
And we're talking with Ric Grenell, and Abraham's been on the program. We'll get him back on soon. This is a race that a lot of people are watching, and I know that Abraham and former President Trump had some pretty strong words that came out just in the past day or so regarding Attorney General Mark Brnovich, who I welcome to come back on the show, and he's now running for Senate. He's been on many times. But pretty strong words as far as the election issues and other issues that have been going on.
Yeah, I think it was last night I went to an event in Phoenix with Abe, and Attorney General Brnovich was there. And he gave this speech that basically, everyone could agree with, which is the Biden administration is failing, they're terrible. We've got to stand up to them. And it's all those things that, Republicans believe. And you were sitting there watching and listening to his speech, and, you caught yourself saying, gosh, I wish this guy who keeps talking about how terrible the Biden administration is was in a position of power to do something. And then you have to slap yourself and say, wait a minute, he's the Attorney General of Arizona. Of course he's in a position to do something. Why isn't he doing something? This is where I think it's shame on us. We've got to stop putting people in office who are, when the going gets tough, they cave. They don't look for common sense fights. And we just came out of COVID, right? We just came out of this incredible situation where they're taking away our freedom, government. They're telling us to not go to church. We can't, shutting down churches. this is a violation of our constitutional rights. There's no exception to free speech or freedom of religion or freedom to assemble. There's no exception for COVID and health crises. These are absolutes in our country. And shame on all of the attorneys general across the country that didn't immediately push back.
Yeah.
I think it's outrageous. And I say every great civilization has lasted roughly 250 years because evidence shows that every great civilization like Constantinople and the British Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, all of them lasted roughly 250 years and they imploded from within. And I feel I'm a positive guy. I hate to be negative, but I feel like if we don't stand up and start sending people to Phoenix and to Washington, D.C., we don't start sending people to represent us that are common sense patriots, we're going to lose our country.
It's game over. Yeah. And my wife and I were talking about this last night where we felt like we are almost becoming those of us who want to follow the Constitution, those of us who, don't want lockdowns and all the crap that they did to us, Rick. And we feel like we're becoming the minority, and we're almost going to have to live in some enclave like I don't know, like we're going to be just a segment of the society. Yeah, and it's not Flagstaff. It's probably more in Yavapai County or up in Idaho, places like that. That's the importance of states' rights, though. And I think when I get the attorney general candidates on, like Abe Hamadeh, that's a big question: is how will you stand up to the feds? Because yesterday was tax day, Rick, and about close to a third of our GDP is now federal government activity. I mean, it's absurd. So they have more and more power, and they're more and more power hungry every day.
Well, also, again, I want to go back to this shame on us for not getting more involved. There's a guy running, for instance, here in Arizona who was on the Supreme Court. And he sat on the Supreme Court here in Arizona. He's running for attorney general. And he sat on the Supreme Court while all of these COVID measures were coming forward. And I had a talk show host recently say to me, well, did any cases come before him where he could have decided in favor, against the COVID measures? And I said, that's not the point. He's not going to sit in a chair and wait for cases to come before him. He is somebody who's serving on the Supreme Court. Get involved. You can actually play a leadership role. You can push back. You can call things as you see them. You can use common sense. Yeah. And that's, I think, the difference. When people are in position, do they sit there and wait for the establishment and wait for the system to tee something up for them that's easy? Or do they take the difficult path of defending us and defending Americans? And that's why I tell you, Abe Hamadeh is a great America First candidate. Remember Honest Abe, and put him into the Attorney General seat. All
right. Ric Grenell, hey, appreciate it. And when it hits the fan, I am still just baffled at how many people waffled during COVID and just let our freedoms go, but also the American population in general. So many people just let this happen as well, where maybe it wouldn't have happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And
I agree.
Yeah, we're on that cusp of letting it all go. So I appreciate it. Hope you enjoy Arizona. And one final thing, do you see around the country, is there a swell that's happening as you travel and support different candidates that they want to get? Is it going to happen? Is there going to be a major change this November?
I think not only in November, but people now are running for school board.
Yeah,
we've all collectively moved into the pissed off phase.
Yeah,
and we got to take our country back.
We do. All right, Rick, appreciate it. Best wishes.
All the best.